Hello and welcome to Resolve, an after-play show. This is an after show for a role-playing game that does not have an actual play, where we tell you the details of our game so you don't have to listen to it. I'm Sammie, I'll be your host. My pronouns are she, her, and joining me today is my wonderful co-host, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. My pronouns are he, him.
And for this special character introduction, we are joined by Zach.
Hi, I'm Zach. My pronouns are he, him, and I will be introducing my character Tao, the royalty-free virtual singer, whose pronouns are they, them.
Let's do a little meet and greet with you as a player before we talk about Tao in detail. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about your history with tabletop games and a little bit more about yourself in general.
As far as tabletop games go, my first game that I played in was when one of my dad's friends was missing for the game he was in when I was in high school, and I just joined in using his character sheet. And one of the first things I said was like, hey, this guy has a bonus for using two different one-handed weapons, but he just has a single greatsword. And they were all like, yeah, you're better at playing this game than he is. Since then, I've played a lot of games. I've GM'd a couple of them, been through some White Wolf system games, D&D, of course, a few Apocalypse Engine games like Interstitial that we're playing now, Dungeon World, Fellowship I GM'd for, as well as the Sentinels Comics RPG I recently GM'd for. Yeah, I've been all over the place in terms of role-playing games.
All right, I should probably be the one to ask you this, because what's your relationship to the group? How do you know everybody?
Most of the group I met in college, including my husband, Alex, who is also on this episode. Hello, Alex.
Hello.
And Sammie, we also met in college, as well as few of the other players, Dex and Carolyn playing Athenos and Pony. All of us met in college. Dan running the game, I don't think I met till later through Sammie. D, I went to high school with. Known everyone here for a while, and it's fun to get to game with all of you, because for some of you it's been a little while. D, the one I've known the longest, I've never actually gamed with, so this is fun.
Yeah, and it's good to get that back and forth because, for a lot of us, this is our only social interaction as an adult now. So.
Yeah.
That's why I have 3 role-playing games.
Oh. I'm in 2 right now, and I'm DMing 1, and I want, more time.
Mm-hmm. I'm in 2, but one of them has canceled every other week, so I'm hoping this one will be a bit more consistent.
Hopefully. But as regarding just tabletop games in general, what sort of drew you to that as the media for your entertainment / creative outlet?
I was a bit of a nerdy kid, and it was a nerdy hobby, so that's always a plus. Just sort of the hey, this is the thing you should be into. But really, I think what drew me into it the most is just the space for creativity that you don't get in video games or things like that, where you really can just do anything. That's kind of what drew me into it initially, but as I've gone on, I've grown to really appreciate sort of the creativity and collaborative storytelling as well that can come out of a good role-playing game with other people.
Now that we know you a bit better, how about we talk about Tao? Is Tao their full name?
Yes, Tao is their full name. They're heavily inspired by a video game called The Caligula Effect, where there are other vocaloids that have a single Greek letter as their name, Mu being the main antagonist of the first game.
Can you describe their appearance?
Somewhat shorter androgynous figure, around 5'4", tan skin, bright flaming red hair, also sort of draconic in nature, because as we were developing these characters, it came up that a lot of the other people were furries, so decided to lean into that. Went with Dragon Boy Singer. It also has red to black horns, red wings, and a red draconic tail.
As far as media influence, there's another important reason why their dragon transformation exists, right?
Yes, it was also inspired by the game Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE. Sadly, most people know from the censorship controversy rather than having actually played it. It's a very good game, but Tiki, Dragon from Fire Emblem, is a vocaloid in that universe as well, and so I took some inspiration from that game in that world.
Lovely. What is their personality like?
A bit naive, I think, but always trying to be helpful. They really just want their friends to be happy and their loved ones to be happy, and then they'll be happy. And so they're a bit of a people pleaser, but also, like I said, a bit naive, maybe not completely understanding of etiquette or boundaries. They mean well, for sure. Pretty much every interaction they have, they mean well, but they may not come off the best at times.
So what does your character's voice sound like? Can you say like a sentence or two in their voice?
So I've been trying to pin down their voice. I think Tao's voice is more like this, a little bit higher than my voice, and also more stilted, as they are a program that is meant to mimic the human voice, but listen to any Vocaloid songs, you will be able to tell that it is not completely natural.
So the playbook you're going with is the memory, correct? What made you select that playbook, and what moves are you using at the start here?
So the memory is actually kind of the first thing that I thought up about Tao. Is I wanted to see how I could create a character that fit with the idea of the memory of being powered by your relationships with other people and growing stronger or weaker based on how many of those you have. And my first thoughts went back to the Caligula effect, where Vocaloids are powered by the energy of their fans basically worshipping them. And so I decided to make a character based on that concept in Interstitial, and that fit well with the memory. As for which moves I have so far, as a memory, their basic move of my stats go up and down based on how many links I have with other people, and I can lose those links if I roll badly. I also have a move, it's called Never Forget, I believe, that allows me to hold on to some of those links with other people, even if I roll very badly. The last move I have is Make a Big Impression. As a virtual singer, Tao wants to make a big impression, wants to get a lot of fans. So that means that when I stop someone from doing something, or when I help someone do something, I can create a link with them. Interfere or limit break in terms of the game.
Yeah, and the memory is kind of an interesting playbook in the fact that, if you lose all your links, your character dies. You lose that power source, you lose all existence at that point. How is that going to affect how you play this character and the game going forward?
That sort of also ties in with Tao's motivations to be the number one, virtual idol, basically top VTuber, trying to get a lot of fans, get a lot of those links with people in order to grow in power and sustain themselves.
All right, we talked a little bit about sort of the influences from media that shaped Tao, but what is Tao's homeworld actually like? What's been going on recently?
Tao's homeworld, as I said, Tao is inspired by the Caligula effect and by Tokyo Mirage Sessions. So Tao's homeworld is basically those two worlds mashed together. Everything that happens in those. As in Tokyo Mirage Sessions, you have people trying to steal the energy of fans that performers can gather, and as Caligula effect, you have people trapping those fans in order to harvest their energy from the Matrix, basically. And both of those events tie into Tao's backstory in some ways, and sort of make them wary of people trying to abuse that relationship between fan and performer. Those are all recent past for Tao's world. As of current day, it's basically just modern world. 2022 in Tao's homeworld, and they're trying to build up a following online and put out some collabs with other Vocaloids, things like that.
So as an artificial creation, obviously somebody had to have made Tao. Who is Tao's creator?
Tao's creator is a Vocaloid producer known as Hanabi P, or Fireworks producer, which ties into Tao being a fire dragon. He was a teenager in high school who basically wrote this homebrew Vocaloid to have his own creation to put out into the world instead of just buying one of the big popular mass-produced ones. And he was also a victim of bullying in school, and so a lot of Tao's initial and most popular songs are very sad and very angry songs, because Tao was also a way for him to sort of vent those feelings of sadness and anger at the people bullying him.
So what was going on with your character right before the start of the game?
So right before the start of the game, Tao had just finished recording a new single and probably just uploaded it and was taking a well-earned break from singing for the day when, as far as Tao knows, someone else started up the program for the first time, and they went to introduce themselves and have now found themselves cut off from their original world.
We talked a little bit about other characters, like Tao's creator, but are there any other characters that Tao associates with in their world?
There is a bit of a community of Vocaloids in Tao's world, because most of them are programmed by the same couple big companies, but they're all given form and given sentience by the power of the people creating music with them and the fans listening to it. So there is definitely a community of those Vocaloids. And as well, Tao has something of a relationship with everyone that uses them to create music. Some more so than others. The majority of them simply think they're a program that has some very Clippy-esque suggestions at times that maybe seem a bit too realistic to just be a program's auto-suggest, but generally they're not super open with humanity about being alive and sentient, but does have more of a relationship with other digital beings.
Do they have a rival with another Vocaloid?
Yes, they do have a rivalry with Mew, as I mentioned, the villain of the first Caligula effect, who is basically the Hatsune Miku. She is the number one Vocaloid. She is the one everyone thinks about, and Tao definitely has a bit of a rivalry with her, and also very much disagrees with everything that she did during the course of that video game.
All right, well, now that we know a little bit about Tao's relationships in their homeworld, how about the party? How do you think Tao will respond to the other characters?
So far, this is just after the first session that we've had, so Tao has only met with Smog, who seems to revere them as a god of some sort. So Tao is basically all in, like, yes, another fan, great, good to have you. There are definitely some interesting connections I can see with other characters. I feel like Tao is going to relate to Athenos somewhat on the idea of needing to do like great works in order for worshippers to worship you and give you power. Very thematically connected, and probably not like Geyser as much in the same way as Geyser's like, hey, trick people into playing your games so you can make them hate you and steal their energy like that. Asiri, I believe we've talked a bit about how Asiri is like a siren, another singer, which will be great to talk shop with another musician. Pony, I'm really not sure how Tao and Pony are going to connect, but that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it makes sense that you thought Athenos might be a very close connection because you are actually playing the same playbook.
This is true.
It'll be interesting to compare what moves you have and how that might define the characters differently as we move along.
Right. I know Athenos has already taken the ultimate form move from the memory playbook, which makes sense because he's, God that can grow up to 2,000 feet tall and do enormous feats of power and all those things. They've laid some breadcrumbs for Tao possibly getting an ultimate form that's more turning into a full dragon. I don't think they're quite there yet. That'll be interesting to compare our paths going through the playbook.
What would you say is one of the more impactful moments in your character's backstory that really shaped their worldview?
The first time that they really caught on to how heavily Hanabi was being bullied, and realizing that the thing that they wanted to do most in this world was to help Hanabi, help him feel better, and that really grew into wanting to help everyone, really. Help all their fans and all their creators.
As a musical entity, and you sort of touched on that a little bit earlier with their earliest songs being sort of angry and sad, what genres do they mostly frequent when people write for them, or do they have any sway in that?
They do have a bit of sway. I think they definitely lean more into the metal and metal, hard rock, some ballads, but not as many of those. Definitely on the heavier side of things.
As sort of a virtual being, how do they manifest? How do they stay around? Do they have to eat? Do they sustain themselves just on fans? Do they need electricity?
Yeah, so they really just sustain themselves off of the energy of their fans. They don't need to eat or recharge with electricity necessarily, but after like a certain threshold of popularity, they gain sentience effectively. They continue to grow in power as their popularity increases.
Is there anything about Tao that you haven't told anybody yet?
Aside from Dan as the GM, and we talked through the backstory a lot, I don't think I've told anyone else that Tao plans to get enough power to create a new world. Definitely haven't told anyone that in-game. They want to create basically a paradise, and they can only do that if they have power from being number one, from having so many fans that they can manifest that much power.
What does that paradise look like?
Honestly, I don't think that Tao even knows firmly what that paradise looks like. They just want to create a place where people can go to relax, get away from the stresses of the real world, and enjoy themselves for a bit. That is in response to the way their creator was treated. Also, sort of in response to the Caligula effect, where people are trapped in that paradise matrix, because if you start letting people go, then you're not draining power from them to keep the world going. The idea of wanting to do that, but do it right without having to trap people, is going to need a whole lot more fans, a whole lot more energy, and it's going to be a lot harder.
The conversation on like the needing of energy, of course, that's how your playbook operates, that's how this character's world operates. Do they feel guilty? Because it almost sounds to me like almost a parasitic relationship at some points. Is there any guilt or hesitation in what they do?
No, I don't think that they feel like it is that parasitic, although that may be something that we explore as we get further into the campaign, but they simply see it as, these people like my music, so I'm going to keep putting out music that more people like to get more of that power. And yeah, they don't really see it as manipulative or parasitic in that way. They just see it as how it works, how the world works.
It sounds like Tao is going to be a fun character for us to interact with as we go forward. Hopefully we get a lot more scope into what their decision-making process is. So why don't we hop into our resolution phase, where Zach gets to tell us one thing that nobody else gets to comment on.
All right. Well, I guess I'll say listen to Vocaloid music. It's very good. Also, you can find me on Twitter at ZachDefense.
This has been Resolve, an after-play show. You can find us online at most social media sites at ResolveAP.
Except Instagram, which is at ResolveAfterPlay.
Thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. You can buy the game we're playing, Interstitial, Our Hearts Intertwined, from its creator, Riley Hopkins, at linksmithgames.com.
Links will be in the description for this episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We end our turn here, so that was your turn. Tell us about the character you're playing in your game.